So I've been seeing this service called UX Pilot a lot on LinkedIn, and I thought I'd try it out. So what it does is you give it prompts and it creates a UI for you. But now the difference, like if you tell ChatGPT to create a UI for you, it's going to make a photo, and that photo is not going to be editable, and it's probably not even going to follow your prompt, trust me. But what this does, at least supposedly, is it follows your instructions to the letter, and you can even give it a reference, like you want your UI to look like that. And then you can take that UI and paste it onto Figma and you can edit it yourself. So I thought that's very promising. When I looked for reviews, people were saying that it's so good, it's amazing, it's like magic. But spoiler alert, this does not really match my experience so far. And I'm going to show you a real life example of how you could possibly try to use this if you were designing something for, let's say, a client. So first, let's go through the interface real quick. It gives you the option, like, do you want to generate a wireframe or a high fidelity design? And then you can choose a design system, or you can import your own, which I have not tried yet. But the way that works is you don't really import the published components like the library from Figma. You actually select some frames and then it turns those into components. So I might try that in the future and make another video, but for now, let's just go with a standard model. And you can always put a reference image. Now, the idea is you can write something here and generate a UI. Or you can generate an entire flow. You can add a lot of screens, either manually or by writing a description here. You can choose autoflow and it's going to create a list of the pages it thinks that flow needs. Now I have an example already here. I'm going to choose mobile app, and my example is the activity booking flow of a travel app. And now if I select autoflow, it's gonna generate what it thinks I need. But I know exactly what I need because I thought about this. I looked at some other apps that do this. So let's see what it generated. Okay, homepage, available activities, detail page for each activity, a form to enter booking details. That actually makes sense. That's probably what you would actually need. But this is very generic. You might have very specific requirements because when you work for real clients or in real companies, you're going to have specific requirements or a specific database structure in the backend that you need to take into account. What I had tried to do at first was edit these here, but as you see, this looks like a bug, but I'm typing right now and it's not letting me type. If I try to delete, it's not letting me delete. If I try to move these, at least I can move them. And yeah, basically you have to delete all of those. I haven't found a way to delete them all at once. I'm typing, I'm making another one, I keep typing, and eventually it does not. And maybe it's when I add spaces. Honestly, I'm not sure what it is, but it's some sort of bug that randomly does not let you edit anymore, as you saw before, which I cannot replicate right now. Oh, there it is. See, I cannot change the text here, so that's really annoying. So what I've done is I created a page somewhere else and I wrote my prompts and now I'm gonna copy and paste them. These are my pages and I'm just gonna copy and paste everything. And I've done this before, so I know how it works more or less. So I'm gonna paste each one here. Again, you have to do it one by one. So I'm gonna skip forward. I noticed that I'm trying to paste and it's not letting me paste because I made a new screen. And then I went to my app to copy, and by the time I was back, the field had been locked. Again, I don't know why it does this. Let's see if it will do it again. Go here. Yeah, I don't know why it does it, when it does it. I just know that it's buggy and unreliable, as a lot of other features, as you will see. I added all of them now, and you'll see here that you can put an image as a reference here. But for now, let's just see what it designs with a standard design system that it has. And you'll see each generation burns some credits. And up here, you can see how many credits you have. And you get some credits with your monthly plan. And if you want, you can add more. I'm going to hit generate. And what this does is it creates a group and then one page for each of these within that group. And the cool thing is that later, after it's done generating, we can go to each one of these and request a change, and then it's going to keep an archive of the past generations. So that's something pretty cool, and I appreciate that they've really tried to help us keep things organized. That's one of the good features. It's been half a minute or so and the first generation is happening. It's taking place right now. It does not necessarily generate these in order. Right now it has completed the first screen and still generating the others. And sometimes it might generate the last one and then this one here. So you should not assume that this one has the context from this one. It does not. So all of these, they have this context that you put up here. So here you can specify things like colors or some pattern you want it to follow. But then each one of these has no knowledge of the others in the flow. So sometimes you might have to repeat some information if it's not up here. It's been a couple of minutes and all the screens have been generated. What I didn't really expect was that it really follows your prompt to a T most of the time. So I went over these and they are exactly what I described. With one small omission here, I wanted it to have a section that says, do not forget, because I'm copying an existing service basically, and it has that. I can go here and say, edit globally, edit the entire page. Because if you say section, I would say I want to edit this section specifically, but now I want to ask it to add something. So I'm going to go for global edit. This was in the original prompt, but it ignored it. So what I can do is I can say add one more section. And this is probably going to work well enough. Let's see. You'll see right away, it creates a stack. And then when it's done, you can go back and forth and see the different versions. So unlike in Figma, you don't have a lot of versions at the same time cluttering your page. They are stacked together, which I quite like. Now, of course, you can create a new page entirely, like with any other generative AI service. Usually the first generation is the best one. And then as you try to make changes, something is invariably going to go wrong. So what I have tried previously, and it seemed to work, was to copy paste the entire prompt and hope it fixes it. So let's see now. Nope, it still did not do it. It changed the color, but it did not add the don't forget to bring. But whatever, this is one of the limitations. Sometimes it just flat out refuses to do it. Now, sometimes if you try to add a new screen next to it, it might do it. So let me try that as well real quick, just to see what are some ways we would realistically debug this situation. So I created a new page. This is going to put one to the right, and this is going to put one to the left of this screen. And let's try again. And you'll see every time I do this, it burns credits. Okay, so if it doesn't work that well, if it doesn't follow the prompt, you're going to be burning a lot of credits. So this generation is done, and I see it still has not added it, but this time I noticed something, that this is getting cut off. So maybe there is something more beneath it. And the cool thing about these is that if you enter preview mode or prototype mode, if you're used to the way Figma does it, you'll see that these are not just static designs, they're actually interactive prototypes. So like if I go here, you'll see that I can scroll here, which is kind of cool if you want to show maybe to clients, or I can type here. So let's see if maybe there's more than meets the eye here. Oh, there is. See? Okay, pretty cool. I would want this to be taller, but look at that, it actually did it. Okay. The way you would get this into Figma is the following. First, you might want to give this group a name so that you can find it later. So I'm going to say activity flow demo. And then you say save. And what this does is it makes it available in the extension. Okay, so if I go to Figma and say UX Pilot, it's going to show me my saved designs. Okay, so I go to retrieve in Figma. Okay, then saved design. And I'm going to click this. And look what it does. It generates the Figma designs. And you see this looks kind of weird. Look at the names here. Look at the overlap. So what this does is it creates a frame with a text generating. And then once it's done generating, it inserts the actual frame on top of that. But the other frame remains underneath. So that's kind of annoying because you have to go download them, delete them manually. Now, I'm sure there is an extension that lets me type a name and then it deletes all of the frames with that name, right? Okay. But come on, like this is kind of annoying. I don't know why it does it. And the thing I wanted to show you, which is why I kept the stack, is that here, these are grouped together nicely, and I can see I have 3 versions, but here, they're just put in random places. One of them is here, and the other 2 are here. So I have to go manually do this, and I am intentionally not cutting out this part to show you what it is like working with this in reality. Okay, and it's going to get worse. You will see. Okay, let's cut this out as well. Okay. 1 more, no, 2 more. And what is this? Who knows? Okay, just a frame. And great. So now I think I would probably want to add auto layout here so that I can move these around. And again, these are in the wrong order. It does not respect the order where you would find them here. So now for a small flow like this one, not a big deal, right? But if it's a big flow, it would probably be really annoying to try to rearrange all of those manually. Now, where are the activities? I thought they were here, right? See, okay, so here we have activities. And here we simply do not. So now prepare yourself, because when you saw that these are actually interactive prototypes, you might have thought, oh, cool, it's going to be using auto layout in Figma, but no, it does not. Again, prepare yourselves. Okay, I'm going to open my layers panel and look at this. This is worse than Figma sites. Okay, so if I go select activities, we see there is, what is this? Okay, a div with an H1 with a title. Okay, and then a div with a div. Why is there a div here? And why isn't it at least auto layout? Because this, again, this for me is unusable, because I can go here and I can move this anywhere. It's not auto layout. This is entirely unusable for a high fidelity design. Okay, this is just a prototype that you might want to play around with yourself, or if you want to show very early concept to a client, say, is this the structure you were imagining? But if you're going to do that, then maybe use the wireframe mode, which we're going to check out together. But before I try the wireframes, I want to show you what it's like if you add a reference image. So let's say I want this to look a specific way. So I'm uploading an image right now. And let's say I want to see what my app would look like with this exact style. So you will notice, for example, it has different buttons and different colors, and it has a different theme overall. It's light gray background with white cards on top. So that's quite different from what we have now. So I'm going to run the exact same prompt because it remembers it. It does not clear everything automatically. The only difference now is that I added this image. And once I hit generate, it's going to create a second group. Okay? And it's going to do the same thing, but now with the reference image. You can see the first screen is done and it's already looking quite different from this one. So the design is slightly reminiscent of what I added. You can see there's a gray background and the cards on top are white. Now there are a lot of visual glitches here, or not exactly glitches. Like you see the image is square when this is actually taller than a square. This looks fine because there are no reviews here. And if you're wondering why some of them have a rating and some of them don't, it's because I added it to the prompt. I said, this is an optional thing and not all cards have it. So it's really impressive that it followed even that part of the prompt. Now we can keep going and let's see if we have any other differences. Really, this is more or less the same. You can see slightly difference here. It added the background color, but it is pretty much the same. And that's possibly because it has the same design system, which says the standard model. So yeah, they're all going to look quite similar. But notice that here, it actually, like in the first generation, these were in separate rows, but now they are together in one row, which is what I had specified in the prompt. So again, with AI, it's kind of hit or miss. That's what you get. I also noticed that we can see more of the text. So the don't forget is actually visible this time, and there is no confirmation button. But one notable difference is that even though the design I added as a reference had a black button, a rounded one, here the buttons are still blue and kind of like squarish, rounded squares, which is giving me the impression that whatever model they have here is going to have more of a weight than whatever image you add as a reference. But enough of the high fidelity designs. Let's see if it's going to be more useful in wireframes, because as you see, the high fidelity is not really high fidelity. It kind of looks high fidelity, but it's not really usable. It looks quite generic, even if you add references. And when you put it in Figma, you cannot use this at all. It's completely useless. So you might as well do a wireframe if you're going to be recreating everything from scratch. So that's my thought process. So I switch this to wireframes and I'm going to remove the reference because I would imagine it wouldn't make sense here. And the rest of the prompt is exactly the same. So I'm going to hit generate once again. So we can already see that the wireframes already look very similar to the reference version. We see it uses the exact same style here, the exact same icons. So the only thing it took from the reference is nothing. I think it just added some colors because it's supposed to be high fidelity. We can actually see how it would do it without a reference, and we can see that it's exactly the same as with the reference, with the only difference that it correctly added a background color and made the cards white to match the reference image. You know what? I think this is actually better than the designs in some ways, because here I can see all of this. It does not get cut off. I specifically said that I wanted a bottom sheet, which is this thing that pops up from the bottom and you can slide it back down. But in this case, it made an entire page, which again, it's not a bad thing. It's a wireframe anyway, like you expect less from wireframes. But yeah, other than some strange glitches and decisions, I can see that this really follows my prompt pretty well. And because it's a wireframe, the weird things don't look as weird. So I'm going to try to get this wireframe into Figma. I'm going to go here. I'm going to rename it Wireframes so that it's easier for me to find. And then I'm going to go into Figma. I'm going to launch the UX Pilot extension once again. I'm going to go to Retrieve in Figma. And oh, I think I forgot to save, right? So I have to go here and save it first. Suppose this is to not clutter this, and it appeared right away. And if you click this, I would imagine it would take you back to the UX Pilot interface. But as it's performing like this work, this button does not work. So we'll see later. So I closed the extension while this was running and it ended up not finishing the generation, my bad. But something that's interesting is that in the wireframes, it did not do this thing that it was doing before. There's no generating frame behind this. It's just the right frame. Let's see if it uses auto layout. No, it's still just random stuff thrown into the canvas. Yeah, but let's go and try it once again. Get the wireframes in here. And this time I'm not going to close this. Okay, yeah, for some reason, it worked better now. There's no generating frame. Let's try it once again. It seems it works now again. Okay, this is crazy because I had tried it many times before. And every time it did that thing that I showed you, overlapping the two frames. And it looks like maybe as I was shooting this, it got fixed. Okay, good. So my takeaway regarding the design capabilities of this tool is that It can be cool to generate wireframes or to generate entire flows pretty fast because presumably you're able to type or maybe speak faster than you can drag around rectangles in Figma. Although if you are working with some sort of UI kit, you can make this page in less than a minute anyway. So it might not be that much of a time saver. And a limitation is that it's only going to generate things that have been made before. That's a limitation of generative AI in general, and definitely of this tool. Like everything is going to look kind of generic, kind of Tailwind style. Even if you add your own references, that might affect the styling and the colors and all that. But the layouts, they're still going to be standard layouts. So you're kind of limiting yourself, putting yourself in a box, which is not necessarily bad because sometimes you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You just want to make an app that works, is functional, is usable. So in those cases, like if you want to show wireframes to someone really fast and you don't work with UI kits or you don't want to work with a UI kit or you want to try a different style, this could come in and help because the cool thing is that I can run the same prompt with very different reference images and see what it comes up with and see if it would look better with a different style. To demonstrate that, I'm gonna delete those and pick just one screen and try to make different versions of that. But as you can see, it doesn't want to let me delete. Instead, it seems to be adding things. Wait, no, like this. Oh, if I go up and try to delete it, wait, okay. And then it added them all again. You see, this is what I mean about this being buggy. Like you're using this to save time, right? But you cannot save time because it's so buggy and you have to keep finding workarounds and it's really fucking annoying. Let's see if it gets fixed if I just refresh. Yep, I refreshed and I was able to delete all those. So I'm gonna go back to the context and this time I'm pasting just the prompt for the first screen and I'm gonna upload a reference image and I'm gonna try to make it look different. So I went ahead and picked some quirky references just to see how closely it can follow the design and how much different the designs it generates can be from the base design system. Okay, so I'm trying the dark one first. And this time it's going to generate a single frame because I don't have screens in the flow here. So it only generates what you put in this box. But I forgot to set it to hi-fi, so it generated the same wireframe again. Okay, so if you generate a wireframe as a guest, it's not going to take the reference into account. Now, I would say that if it's not going to do it, it would be better if it did not include this at all so that you wouldn't be confused and you would be able to see at a glance whether you are in wireframing or hi-fi mode. But I digress. So I pressed generate once more and let's see. All right, it did follow the dark theme, but it did not follow the theme like of making the corners sharp. So the corners here are still rounded, but it did take like the colors into account and try to make it match. This is a design again for context. And now let's pick this one and ask it to generate the screen again. And this is what we got. So again, I tried to keep the color and tried to make it kind of similar, but you can still see how, it has the same icons. It has very similar border radius every time, regardless of the reference that you put in. So again, the system prompt has more weight than whatever you put in, but it does try to give you a taste of what it would look like with the other style. And you can also see it has made some changes to the reference design. So here it has a gray background with white cards. Whereas the reference design does not have anything like that. The background is just pure white. And it didn't seem to try to put these inside the images or anything. So yeah. And I want to try this one that is even funkier and more different. See how closely it follows the color scheme. Okay, an attempt was made. You can see that it doesn't follow the design that closely, but it did pick out the right colors. Yeah, this is also unreadable. It's kind of to be expected. I thought it was going to be closer, but no. And the last one I'm going to try this one is this because it's a bottom sheet with filters. So it's exactly what we have here. And I'm going to try to recreate that and again, see how well it follows the prompt. So you can go to every generation and see the history of the prompts that you have used. So I can actually find this and copy paste it here, change the reference image and hit generate once again. Just in case you were wondering, you cannot rearrange these groups. It's just one on top of the other. You can delete them and you can also move them to other pages. So this is a page and you can create new pages and move them there. Although the one time when I tried to move a group to another page, it just disappeared and it was still visible here in my saved ones, but I could not access it in any way other than through the Figma extension that somehow brought it into Figma. But yeah, again, this is another bug. Okay, this time it did not even try. Okay, so let me show you the reference again. The colors are very distinct, but no, it didn't do anything. So again, it's kind of hit or miss. Before I move on, let me show you that I tried like bringing this into Figma, this one that we made before. And for some reason, like these frames are really short. And yeah, apparently there is something in them. So the design got brought in, but yeah, look at this. It's another bug. Let's look at another feature that the Figma extension has specifically, not the website, just the Figma extension. It calls it diagram, and supposedly you can pick some frames and it generates a diagram based on what it sees, but it says it's only available in FigJam. So I made a new FigJam and I'm gonna let's take this and I'm gonna paste it onto FigJam. I don't know why it's not available in Figma. Actually, I can imagine it's because FigJam has these arrows and stuff. And now let's remove some things to make it look like a flow. Okay, so this is redundant. What's included? Again, these are not in the right order. Okay, and so we have, this is the first page. And then we have this. Okay, you can see that in practice, even though I did it a few minutes ago, it's kind of hard to remember what goes where. This is the page with the options, and then this is an option. And then where's what's included? Oh, here. Okay, so this goes after this. Oh, and the filters have to go here again. Yeah, you see, this is so annoying in practice, but let me move that. Okay. And the way I understand this works is I launch the extension again. I'm going to be using this for the first time. And it says select text or sticky notes. Ah, so I cannot select these? Okay, if I select text, am I just supposed to describe the flow? Let's just see if it does anything. I forgot to write a prompt. Let's try. This is the activity booking flow from a travel app. And I clicked generate here, but now it has generate down here as well. Where do I actually generate? Something went wrong. Probably the fact that these are frames and not text, but just in case. Okay, yeah, so you have to select text or sticky notes. What if I put text in a sticky note? How exactly does this work? There's no explanation. Would this be main page and then another sticky note and I say all activities and filter bottom sheet, then single activity page and what's included bottom sheet? This is how I would write it for myself to kind of create placeholders for the screens that I want to create. Okay, and this is what it generated from these 5 sticky notes. I think it's a lot. Okay, so it says all activities and then upcoming, past, what? Okay, filter by location, by date. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Okay, no, you know what? This could be helpful so that you can see, oh yeah, I forgot about this specific thing. Let me include that because these things are going to have to exist somewhere. Like I have a cancellation policy and that's going to be somewhere. Like, this could be helpful, but again, if you don't make this yourself. And if you have somebody generate it for you, then if I say, actually, we don't want to filter by category, let's say in workshops, webinars, again, this is unrelated. So if I go here, it's not its fault because I didn't specify, right? But is this really faster than just making a diagram yourself? There are a lot of like mind map generators where you just put in text and it creates diagrams. Again, I'm not dissing on it. Maybe it could be useful to someone, probably not really for me right now. And the last thing I want to try is what it calls review. Supposedly, I'm going to select a frame and I can choose a template. It only has one template, but apparently you can save whatever you paste here as a template. So that's why. But let's choose the 10 heuristics. And I guess I need to add some context. Like this is the activity page in the activity flow of a travel app. The button that says options is supposed to be sticky. And if you press it, it's going to scroll you down to the options. That should probably be enough context. And let's see. Sure, let's include contrast check. And let's review the design that UX made. Okay. Small font size, 12? Where did it use 12? Okay. So this is kind of funny that these designs that it generated, the text size is apparently too small. Even though it knows that it shouldn't use font sizes below 16 pixels, it still does. So why do this and then have me examine this and then see that there's an issue? So that's just the font sizes, nothing else? What about the heuristics? Maybe it's so perfect heuristically that there's nothing to say. Let's try again. These are the filters in the all activities page in a travel app. I think that's how you're supposed to use it, but again, there aren't really any instructions that I can see here. So I think I clicked here, but I put it here. Okay, I suppose there was nothing. This is just so perfect, but there's no indication that the check was run. It doesn't say all checks passed or something. Yeah, this is just really half-baked, honestly. So my verdict for the current iteration of UX Pilot is that you can probably skip it. You might want to buy a 1-month subscription just to try it out, see where the state of generative AI UI design is currently at. But I don't think this is going to be more useful than just using a UI kit. Maybe it's going to save you the time of finding a UI kit that you like, but if you find one once and it has all of the things that you need, then again, sometimes you get a UI kit and it might not have this component, right? These circles with the icons, and then you have to make them from scratch. And then that kind of defeats the purpose of using a UI kit or a wireframing kit. But actually, this one is using some sort of wireframing kit. It calls it standard model, and behind that there's a UI kit, as we saw, that has, for example, this is a component in the UI kit, because we saw it in the wireframes as well as here. So if you had this underlying UI kit in Figma, would there really be that much of a benefit using UX Pilot compared to just doing it in Figma yourself? I would argue that doing it in Figma with a UI kit would be faster because you would have auto layout. And then if you want to make a small change, you don't have to prompt the AI and say, I want you to move this below this. You would just do it so fast in Figma. So I think this is aimed at two kinds of people. One kind is someone we also see in the testimonials here that says, I am a software engineer and I wanted to make some designs for myself quickly. So yeah, I guess if you're not comfortable in Figma, this is going to be much easier. Another person apparently says that UX Pilot pushes me to improve my understanding of what best practice design could look like. So in my opinion, this is not like best practice design. It can give you some hints for sure, but the best practice, I don't know, maybe standard practice, maybe Tailwind style. Another person says it generates smart layouts and suggests improvements. What improvements? Like, is this an improvement that the font size is too small? You can just make that a rule for yourself. You don't have to run this every single time. But one thing that UX Pilot could be useful for right now for people who are comfortable using Figma is quickly changing the style and trying different styles altogether. Like you see a screenshot, you're like, I like this vibe. Let's see what that would look like on my design. Okay, assuming that your design is in UX Pilot. Or you might already have a design for an app and you might want to just explore different ways of arranging the elements on a screen. This is actually why I thought I would try it out. I like that there's a simpler way to create this layout that I'm missing. In that case, you can take a screenshot of something you like, or maybe even your own app, and just describe without many details, without saying this should be here and this should be there. Say, I want to make an activities page for a travel app, and there have to be ways to filter by activity type, and the cards should include this information, and that's it. And then see what it makes for you. And then try screenshots for reference to see what it would look like in a different style. Like maybe if you're starting out, and ask your client, do you prefer this or that? And the cool thing is that, again, this is an interactive prototype. So you can actually show your client and say, hey, how do you feel about this? And they can see it running in a sense. And, that might help them give you better feedback, right? But it's really rough around the edges. Anyhow, if you yourself are a designer that works with Figma and wants to have some control over their designs, I don't think UX Pilot is for you. Again, maybe for ideation, maybe to try different styles, but that's it. Maybe next year it's going to be better.